Welcome to GunjurBiz. I'm your host, Abubacarr Jammeh. I am welcoming you today, this beautiful Saturday, and greetings from the great state of Wisconsin. And thank you for joining us and sharing your Saturday with us. Like every Saturday, we come here and talk about business. We talk about business, businesses, business people, people that are involved in it, stakeholders, policy, those who are in the office that makes policies. We invite elected owners. We also invite people that are having aspirations to be business people in the future. And we continue to invite people from all walks of lives and to share ideas with them to tell us about their journeys. They also continue to tell us about how they um, thrive in their businesses, the failures that they had, how they built on those, and also give us tips to our younger generation who looked up to them. Our today's program, we will dedicate it with an aim that we can have someone here that can inspire generations of entrepreneurs. As someone who obviously relates with everyone, someone that I looked up to when I was growing up. Before I got to know him, he became a brother and someone that I think will be an inspiration for many young people out there. A job creator and a prominent guy in the Gambian business industry in different areas. That's no other person than Mr. Harona Drammeh, CEO of Paradise TV. I'll start with the latest one. Paradise TV, Paradise FM, Smart Space, and a youth champion. Taking your time Saturday to come to us means a lot. And I welcome you to GunjurBiz, Mr. Drammeh.
Thank you, Abubakar. It's a pleasure to be with you here, and I'm honored.
Thank you. And definitely apologize for bringing you on a Saturday. I know you don't have a day off, but for creating us this time to be with us today, though it's getting pretty late back home in the Gambia. But I know how energetic you are. You got this one, bro.
Well, I'm at the office, as you can see. So
Yeah,
we work every day. This is our life now. So yeah, so it's no bother at all.
thanks. So our viewers, that's Haruna Drammeh. Like I said earlier, n- not a stranger to anyone. I'm sure if you watched TV back in the day in 1997, you've seen him on TV. Since then, this guy is still in this industry. I remember the last time you broadcasted from Gunjur. I mentioned that to you some time ago. You broadcasted from Gunjur. I still remember the spot you were broadcasting from and see you on TV and got, getting to know you and see your human side and how humble and passionate you are in uplifting young people. If someone meets you on the street and asks who is Haruna, what would you tell them?
I dread this question, I oftentimes don't like to dwell on myself.
Good.
It's one of the easiest questions to ask a person, but it's one of the hardest for anyone to answer because who are you? Apart from names that have been given to you by your parents,
Mm,
and we usually would say, I do this, I do that, I'm capable of this, I'm capable of that. So I don't know. For me, it's always difficult. But I work in a space where our work speak for us. So that makes it a lot easier being a broadcast journalist and being a person who has been in the media. I think my life is out there and everybody knows what I do and who I am. So to answer your question, my name is Harona Drammeh, and that's it.
I absolutely knew this answer was coming. So, in this aspect, I would definitely want to know. Obviously, people know what you do, but there are things that are behind the scene that a lot of people don't see. Especially, I was asking who is Haruna Drammeh, with the mindset of an entrepreneur. Like I mentioned, how everything started, bunch of businesses that you established. Um, I've visited most of them. I've seen you expanding the business from the time when there was no technology, and when technology started, and how you progressed this business, the adaptation and all that, to a stage where you're running a TV that I watched regularly while I lived in a different part of the world. What was your journey like as an entrepreneur, as a journalist, as a businessman, as a youth champion that creates jobs for a lot of people? All right. Haruna, do you hear me? All right. We will get back with Haruna once he's able to connect,
I'm here, but I can
reconnect with
barely
us.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So my question was, if you can hear me now, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Um, so we will try to reconnect with Aruna. We were talking about his business life, how things started, how he empowered people that are into different areas of business. Aruna, I'm not sure if you can hear me now. Um, so we were trying to talk about how he established different businesses from when there was no technology to a level where his business had to adapt in changes in technology, and by establishing different businesses in the Gambia that
I can see
employs
you, but I'm not able to hear you. Maybe I need a headset to do that. I could hear you loud and clear before.
right.
Not anymore.
All right. You probably would have to have a
Give me
headset
a moment.
or
I'll look for the headphone. Maybe that works.
yes. So as we await Haruna, we were talking about how the impact he had and continues to have in the lives of our young people in our business sector back home in the Gambia. This is a guy who's gone through different stages of business enterprises, and also helped promote and empower young people that are in different ventures. I've seen him and read about him training people in different areas, especially in the media, that went to do great things for themselves and also for other people. I've seen him, we all seen him doing business that employs so many young people by giving them skills that becomes an employment for them, and that the small way contributed in advancement of the people, the business sector, but also triggers stiff competitions, especially in the media. And I know he's a person that obviously strive to give the best to people. He's the guy who once opened one of the first to open a radio station in Farafenni, runs a real estate agency called Real um, uh, called Smart Spaces. And Haruna continues to do that, continues to elevate his business engagement to a level that we have not seen in our country before. And these are things that we want, these are things that we need to have as a mindset in our young generation so that they can emulate what they have done, but also to even be better than what our current business owners are doing. It's a responsibility of everyone, but that sustainability part is important for a fact that we tend to have got in the, I mean, we tend to be stuck in our businesses in an old fashioned. And we will, when he comes back online, we will discuss how he was able to adapt, from how business used to be done before, and now being empowered by technology, new softwares developing all the time. We're trying to, sharpen our It seems like we got Haruna back. Haruna, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. So I was trying to give a recap of how what you're being engaged in, especially in the business sector. Obviously, I include the media as part of that, but for me, I looked at it purely from a business perspective. How you started everything before, probably when I was very, very young, the mindset that you have when you started your first business, and today to a level where you can broadcast a whole TV station, the channel, not just in the Gambia, but across the world. How you were able to start all this and adapt to the technological changes. I know thousand businesses or millions of businesses got out of business because of the changes in technology they couldn't adapt. Take us through that, Johnny.
Well, Abubakar, my first business was in media. I stumbled in media by accident, but I knew I always wanted to do something that would change lives. This was very obvious from the beginning. And then I was largely volunteering, working with young people back in the days when we had all of these peer health groups. We had the lender hand societies. We had these youth employment projects that were running all over the country. I was always engaged and involved with young people to do that. My first little business was a generator, and I was going around renting this generator to people that had naming ceremonies, events, and things. And NAWEC wasn't as good as they are now. I mean, a lot of people will argue if they're in fact good now. But in the 80s, it was a lot more challenging. And so I was going from here to the Nyomis, to Gunjur South, to places, to rent generators to these people, get paid, and they also buy the petrol. That was my first. And I got a lot of interest in sound systems and in hosting events, etc. And then I love food. I mean, food is one of those things that I respect a lot. And
Right.
I spent a good part of my childhood also on my mom's first, and I have 10 younger brothers and sisters. So growing up, I was always looking at options of how can I help my mother? How can I make life a lot easier for her? So I've done a lot of chores at home, from cooking meals for the whole family. Yes, I've done that. From cleaning the house and going to market to do the shopping for the whole family and come home to cook lunch for everybody. One of the things that is still at my mother's house is lunch is served around 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. So I was telling my brothers the other time, I was the reason that was, because I go to school, finish at 2, then I'm rushing home to cook, and then lunch is ready at 5, 6. So that culture in the house was done by me. But my first formal business was actually restauranting, apart from the generator. So media wasn't the first, actually.
Yeah, in fact, I was led to know. I got to know you when you're already in the media. Obviously, everyone knew who Haruna was on the media. Most of the people. I got to know that lately. How was that like? Being someone who loved food for obvious reasons, but I'm a strong believer in putting your money where your mouth is, and
Yeah.
knowing you that you got into that, and the restaurant business is one of the most difficult businesses to sustain, even though people think it's easy to set up. How was that life like with before the media, professionally into the media when you were running that small business?
Well, with the restaurants, the one of the things that make us fail in businesses, especially in the food industry, is to have our friends come and sign bills and to pay at the end
Right.
of a month.
Hmm.
So that business suffered massively from that. A lot of my friends will come, they'll sign bills. At the end of the month, they will not pay these bills, and then obviously the business suffered as a result. But in most cases, it was a success. It was on
Mhm.
Kairaba Avenue, where you had Titanic then. These days you have smart media on the one extreme. I was the restaurant in the other corner towards the Ndaos, almost opposite the German clinic they used to call it, and not so far
Mhm.
from the Pipeline Mosque. And it was a great restaurant. It
Was
was
this
good.
Wine and Dine?
Fine wine and dine was,
Fine
yes.
Wine and
Uh,
Dine, correct.
yes, a lot of people really loved it. Then from there, we had this rendezvous and a host of other little businesses that spring up here and there.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a key, an important point here that we, as young, I mean, the small businesses tend to overlook is, I mean, having an eating place like a restaurant or a small corner store that people keep coming, borrowing, and you never see them or they pay you late. And once you're not accommodative towards that, they tend to look at you differently. They even go to an extent that they won't patronize you because they feel, okay, if I need to, wanted to him to give me something, he never did, I would not go and patronize him. And sometimes when you give too much, then you just run away. We get a lot of people that follow us that from the rural Gambia, and also they'll get to watch this later. But what advice would you give to younger business owners, small businesses that are in that similar situation, or even in a smaller scale?
Having gone private almost 20 years now and
Mm,
not under salary since, and having gone through the experience that I have, I like to say start a business as a business and always focus as a business. A lot of us had suffered over the years before we understood what business really was because we are largely driven by passion and that desire to change your life. So your focus is never about profitability. It was about bringing about change. It was about serving people. It was about being of value to our community, to loved ones, to family, to colleagues. So therefore, you tend to put profitability at the back burner. That ultimately will make you fail in business, as has happened to me several times in several ventures.
mm,
We are so humane and sometimes so humble that the challenging part is to say no. A lot of young people find it very difficult to say no, just to simply say no. Sometimes that saves your life. You say yes all the time, and everybody knows you would say yes. And because they know it, they'll prey on that. People will know you cannot say no. Haruna, can I have a shawarma? I'll pay you tomorrow. And you're like, yes. I mean, you half of the time you know the person will not pay, but you're reluctant to say no. And because you
correct.
cannot say no, people will take advantage of you and collect all the yeses from you to your detriment. So that's one thing I've learned over the years. In the restaurant business, what I've learned also was the fact that my colleagues, friends, and family, people that I thought were close to me and were patronizing me, in fact, they were not patronizing me. They come to me when they want loans. They come to me when they want to sign off a bill. But when it's payday and it's paycheck, I see them a couple of stores down mine where they can go and afford a Coke, they'll buy it. Where they can go and
Right.
afford that sandwich, they'll buy. But when it's 15th of a month going towards the 20th, when they start to be broke, then they come back to me again for a loan. But when it's payday, they go to places where they can pay and they're willing to pay. So ultimately, small
Mm.
businesses suffer from these little things that really affects you as a business person.
And this is true to date. You go to Senegambia area or the wherever you go, especially the nightclubs and the restaurants. You see restaurants opening everywhere, like the
Hmm.
new hot spot. People start going there. Five,
Hmm.
6 months down the line, next season it's not even there. So I'm hoping that people will pick up this truly genuine advice from you. Moving down, not sure if there is anyone that I knew of that came after that, before after the restaurant business. But I know Paradise FM's been here for so long, and since it came into operations, we have seen standards going up. Not because you only established Paradise FM, but you have a designing company that designs those advertisements for people and do all this quality stuff. That has elevated the media to another level, that you thrive so hard for efficiency and for your customers to get the value for their money. So it's always been, being a person who already worked with you in this area, I've seen how you have elevated the business landscape in the Gambia. Tell us a little bit about how Paradise Estate came about.
Well, I've always wanted TV. I mean, ironically, I never was focused on radio.
Hmm.
I remember our GRTS days. Lamin Manga had always wanted radio. That was his passion. He wanted
I
radio.
actually wanted to bring him here.
Yes, Lamin wanted radio way before we went to GRTS. I think Lamin got his influence from Radio 1 FM when we were very young and being DJs and hosting youth shows on the radio there and then. He wanted an FM radio and he always
Mhm.
pursued it. Mine wasn't really, honestly. I Once GRTS started, I had dreamt of owning television, and
Mhm.
my drive was always towards owning the first private television station in the Gambia. That was my drive as far back as 1995, 96.
Mhm.
That was my drive. That's what I wanted. It wasn't a radio. But then, as fate will have it, I've tried, even with the television, I've tried, I've met President Jammeh a few times regarding it. I've written proposals to the president, and we sat on a proposal about me and television. And at the time, he told me what he wanted, what he didn't want. So it was a long story. But
Mhm.
my wish for always was for television. And until Mohammed Diab beat me to it with QTV, and I'm still mad at him for it. But yes, my desire was always to be the first to have private television in the Gambia. So radio came by way of default, and
Mhm.
I took it because it was what I could have. Um, it was Nana McDowell Gay when she was Minister of Communications, and we sat down discussing about how to revive GRTS and how some of us that have left could go back to GRTS and help in doing one or two programs in our part times and elevate the status of the television at the time. She felt the television needs that facelifting, and some of us had had years of training and had worked there. We understand the ins and outs of television, and therefore it would have been a good idea for us to go back. During that discussion, the my expression of wanting a television station came up again, and I told her what I really want is to own my own television station. I don't want to work for GRTS. I want to get my own TV.
Right.
But if you know Nana McDowell, you would know she's very blunt. She told me there, Harona, I know this is what you want, but I cannot get you a television license. It's not possible. We are simply not giving television license, and I don't think the country is even ready for television at this time. If it is radio, I can give you. We can
Right.
work on that, and then my ministry is responsible for licensing radio. If you qualify and if you bring a good proposal, I can approve radio license for you right away. I don't need approval from president's office or anywhere. So this is what got our conversation going. So of course, Lamin also had a similar discussion with her. So both myself and Lamin were licensed around the same time.
Mhm.
And if you know Lamin well and you know me well, you know we are always doing that sibling rivalry between us those days. So you were talking about changing the landscape of communications, especially when it came to the radio industry. So it was my race with Lamin. I remember at the time we were thinking, how um, can we do radio differently?
Hmm.
West Coast radio was the #1 radio at the time. Everybody listened to West Coast radio. They had DJ Mo, they had Peter Gomez with sports, they had Esa Jallo there. I mean, they had Uncle Hank on the advertisements, and the advertisements were run in such systemic manner. The
Hmm.
music was great. They had this Dutch connection. The
Right.
radio was doing so well. So we, at the time, we felt when we come to this space, what can we do differently? They seem to have it all. They were doing it all. So I remembered, I didn't want to tell Lamin this, but I wanted to be the first radio to be online. I said,
Hmm.
okay, what we can do, we need to embrace technology now. I want somebody anywhere around the world to be able to listen to my radio via the internet. And then I was working on it. Little did I know that the same people I was contacting in New York, Lamin Manga was contacting them as well. So we were working with the same vendor to,
Right.
to be the first online radio in the Gambia. So I had my dates sorted out, and I said, I'd be the first radio in the Gambia to go online 24 hours a day, yada, yada, yada. So um, I woke up one morning and Unique FM
Right.
was online. And it
Correct.
wasn't the best. But then for some reason, I think Lamin knew I was going online and he just don't want me to be the first. He wanted to be the first. So he went. So it took about a week before Paradise could also come on air also online. And but it was a good challenge. So I think looking at traditional media and embracing technology, creating that bridge began there and then. And the innovations didn't stop. Today we are talking about in excess of 40 radio stations around the country. And,
Wow.
we are, it's changing. The landscape is changing. And I am very glad to be a small part of that.
Absolutely. I mean, back in the day, I've done radio programs in almost every radio station. I probably would say except Radio Gambia. But
Hmm.
yeah, I've
Hmm.
seen how that unfolded, and the Paradise and Unique FM being first to go live. I remember having a radio program on Unique FM, and the people would be texting me from abroad, like from the United States in particular,
Hmm.
and that was
Hmm.
a big deal then. And
Hmm.
definitely, but because I've had programs in all these radio stations across the Gambia, almost all of
Hmm.
them, I have seen how everyone else approaches their business. And
Hmm.
one thing that stood out to yours is content,
Hmm.
how you want to bring it, even though radio was an audio, but you would
Hmm.
never stop, stepping up to even use your own voice just to make sure that everything goes out as planned. And also to make sure that whatever is put out there has your stamp of approval. I think that was pretty unique about what you did. But additionally to Paradise FM, I think one thing you did, which was really great in my way, the way I look at it, even not from the monetary aspect. And I knew when you were operating in Farafenya, this was a
Hmm.
spot that has a lot of people, a lot of business activities. But like you
Hmm.
mentioned about Nawak, you had to operate most of the time on generator and stuff. But you can feel that there is a bigger inner drive that pushes you to make it available in that part of the country. Most of them are not accessible by them, most of the FM radio stations. What was the idea? Why do you think it was necessary to have an outlet in Farafenya back in the day when operating from Farafenya was almost impossible?
We're still operating in Farafenya and Basse at a total loss. But my belief was, and always is, and still actually is the fact that you cannot do media and you leave your public behind. That
Correct.
it is our role as media to educate the public, to come along with the public, to sensitize the public, to entertain the public. And I wanted to break this cycle of Radio Combo. A lot of provincial Gambia feels they are disconnected to the mainland. They are disconnected from the country itself. That all the good facilities are designed and are meant for Banjul to Brikama. And beyond that, you are in the provinces, anything goes. And I felt that at the time, it was the private sector that needs to also compete aggressively with the national broadcaster by bridging the gap, by giving alternative source of income, alternative source of education, of news, of services to the public, but also provide entertainment. And I also felt at the time that doing Farafenya and Basse was to also create a niche in those regions where they can also talk about their own local affairs within that region that the Banjulian may not necessarily be interested in knowing or being a part of. So therefore, when we began, it was challenging. It still is challenging um, because you don't make the kind of money you can make in the combos in the provinces. It's not the same. I remember I was jokingly telling a friend of mine who asked me if you make money in Basse. I said, well, the announcements we get in Basse is a fuller man walks in and tells us, oh, well, I've lost my wife for 3 days. Can you make an announcement so she'll come back to me? I mean, and in the Badibunkas, they'll say, my goat is missing, and then I'm looking for it. Did you find my sheep? But yeah, but the drive is not profitability, to be honest, when it comes to providing these services. It's mainly to connect and have that semblance of one country and one information, and that whatever a person in Gunjur or Sukuta can enjoy, another person in Kanaba should be able to enjoy. Another person in Wuli should be able to enjoy. So my vision has always been provide a business model and formula that every Gambian can be a part of, can enjoy, can get access to it, and patronize if they want to. If not, they can learn from it and be proud of it as Gambian owned. And as we speak now, Q Radio is also nationwide. Afri Radio is nationwide. So it was something great that I had done at the time that people are still finding value in following and implementing.
Absolutely. Like I mentioned earlier when you were offline, how you trigger a stiff competition in the media business. Because like when you guys came, you always want to shoot higher, and you had a mission to accomplish that. You mentioned that you always wanted to have a TV, and no wonder you always do a great content for whatever you produce out there. I just want to rewind you back a little bit to when you mentioned about wanting to have a I mean TV station, a first private TV station. Obviously, you work for GITS. You don't have control over how that is run, and if you have a taste for certain standard, you want to run a private one that you can have a greater impact on. But
Mhm.
then this continues for many years that you weren't able to access. And now, like you mentioned, there are over 40 radio stations. You guys moved on to another level. You're not at that level anymore.
Mhm.
But what do you think it has impacted negatively in the development of the media and the business in general? Some of the rules that were in place during Jammeh time that we could have been in a different stage at this point in time of our development, especially when it comes to business.
I think one of the fundamental role that media plays is changing the narrative. It gives the locals the upper hand in narrating their own stories, in relating with their own culture, their own tradition, and learning about themselves within the community. But then it also always comes at a price. A lot of governments don't necessarily encourage a lot of radio stations and television stations for the simple reason that it can educate the masses to a level of revolt, to a level of understanding and seeing the bigger picture of issues and circumstances surrounding them. And therefore, it becomes difficult to contain that public when they're aware, when they're exposed, when they know more. you tend to, for anybody, do more once you know more, right? So I feel and I believe one of the retards and one of the reasons why Gambia has not so advanced is because of that state control over the airwaves. Our people and our public needed to have had television. I mean, up to 1995, really. I mean, why the whole sub-region had television. I mean, you could say even the whole world. We had our first television station in 1995 and December of 95 for that matter, practically 1996. Now,
Right.
that already was a major delay on the part of the Gambian public, and such an embarrassing moment should have been for our state that
Correct.
people like me growing up have to watch television speaking French and Wolof
Yeah.
because we used to watch RTS in
Right.
black and white for the most part. But we had a sense of belonging to Senegal more than we did to our own country because there was no television.
Hmm.
And I felt uh, that's one of the major failures of our governments, all of our governments, especially the Jawara government at the time, that a television station we could have had in the 70s or the early 80s. I mean, why did it have to wait for 1995? Now, coming to answer your question about Jammeh and television, between 1995 and 2017, that's a huge gap.
Right.
The first TV stations private in Gambia came in 2017. Hello, that took too long. It
Yeah.
took too long. We could have
Absolutely.
had television years and years and years ago. After GRTS came into being in 1995, around the 2000s, we could have had one or two TV stations that would have dramatically changed the landscape of education, of value, of appreciation, of Gambianizing ourselves, really. Because until now, when you go to people's houses, they've gotten accustomed to watching foreign TVs.
Correct.
It's very difficult to get Gambians to watch Gambian television. I mean, QTV is trying to an extent because of its reach and access. But Gambians don't find a sense of belonging to television in the Gambia. You go to places, people will tell you, GRTS. I don't even watch them. I don't even have an antenna at home. I mean, that's humiliating. It shouldn't be, not at all.
I mean, you can't even put it any better. I think this affected almost every area of our businesses, every
It
area
did.
of our industry, because I was involved heavily with a lot of artists, to be specific, Gambian singers, right?
Hmm.
And I'm sure you have for many, many years. You have
Hmm.
promoted all of them, and the lifeline goes on and on and on. But one big complaint that they always have is that Gambians don't support Gambian musicians or Gambian music or whatever. But you just mentioning this just got me reflected because I also I always have similar argument. But you mentioning, explaining how we don't even take ownership of our own stuff because we were introduced to it pretty late, that we had to rely on foreign media, and they sell their cultures to us, they sell their services to us. We got so
Yeah.
much addicted. I remember when I was younger, I could barely speak Wolof, but I love Chonseka, because my oldest brother used to play it regularly. Even
Yep.
now, if I hear that, I'm like, yo, I have so much connection to it. But you would play me Jaliba Kuyade, I literally cannot understand what Jaliba says, even though he speaks in Manika. So that is the damage that the country has suffered when you look at it being really delayed in giving access to information out there, that resulted us not taking pride in supporting and promoting ours. So you mentioning that just got me thinking. The damage it has caused is just it's just beyond repair in a short space of time. But we definitely commend all you guys doing your part in changing that landscape, that people can sit here today and get things like press conferences, on a live
Mhm.
TV station that people can watch across the
Mhm.
country.
No, that's it. It is one of the ways that any culture, any civilization, at all times, of all times, and anywhere in the world, survived via propaganda. Now,
Hmm.
whether it was radio, whether it was on horseback and people going and drumming the tabalas around, but then propaganda, and that's what the media represents. You will, when it comes to appreciation of music, I will differ with a lot of people in argument, because I am right at the center of Gambian music, and I can speak in my own rights as a producer, as a promoter, and as a person who has hosted a lot of them and have produced albums for them and promoted them and given them an opportunity, is the fact that their music don't have enough exposure.
Hmm.
The exposure that the music needs will be about how you hear. You talked about John Seck and how it has influenced you and your life. It's because you hear it all the time, whether it
Correct.
was a tape recorder, via cassette or a CD or vinyl or whatever it was, but you hear it often. When you hear things often, they become a part of you.
Correct.
Subconsciously, when John Seck plays, you're either humming to his music now, or you're nodding your head to it, or you're kind of
Correct.
dancing to it, but your body will react to it because it has gotten accustomed to that music, that flair,
Absolutely.
that rhythm, that voice. Now, our delay in embracing media had caused that. When we had Radio Seed, how long did it take before Radio 1 FM came? Radio 1 FM came in 1992. That's when we had the
That's
first FM radio in this country.
that's
Now,
crazy.
with anything and everything you're going to say about Yahya Jammeh, the proliferation of radio stations began in his era.
Correct.
And now, if we talk about 40, certainly the new dispensation had issued several, perhaps maybe 20 of those have been issued between 2017 to date. And so has five private television licenses, and others are being also looking. So there's progress. Don't get me wrong. I am
Hmm.
saying there was a huge delay. When I was
Correct.
growing up, I was more Indian than Gambian. I loved Indian movies. I
Mm.
watched Indian movies everywhere. I don't know a single Indian, but the
You
VHS
don't even
tapes
know
that
a
we
word.
had, I don't. Well, I knew a lot of words in the end because you had to understand the drama.
Right.
You understand because when you watch movies and you follow the plot, you tend to understand what they're saying.
Correct.
Then there was the Chinese influence, then the American influence, and now the Nigerian influence. What can we say is the Gambian in this? So that's why I feel we've been so late in establishing media houses, because our young people today, my children, your children, will know more about tablets and about Wizkid than they will know about Jizzle.
Absolutely.
So how do you know about Wizkid? He's never been to Gambia. It's media.
Correct.
So I feel the delay in our entire progress as a nation state is a delay of media and having certain freedoms of expression, and being able to practice fully and advocate for ourselves, so that when people switch on that television, they see someone that looks like them, who speaks like them, who is one of them. And they do that very often. They see that, then they get pride in themselves. Prestige comes in. People talk about Gambians not being very patriotic. How can you make us? If everything we learn is about other people's cultures and their way of life, we become those people and those cultures.
Definitely. You go to Gambia now, even the nightclubs or restaurants, you hear more of Nigerian music than anything. People literally
Hey,
memorize all these bars and everything. I'm like, what?
yeah.
Where are we at? Like, I had the privilege of traveling to a bunch of other countries, even African countries, and I'm mostly impressed with Asian countries, how they try to use their local produce, everything, to international standard where they are proud of it. Wherever you go, you know what is unique about that place. You hardly see anything that is foreign. You ask,
Hmm.
people, when they know you know one singer from the Gambia, one artist, they'll be like, probably you got a lot of money, probably you're too famous and stuff, not knowing that the value that those our artists have back home is way less than, because of the exposure and everything. And we were not taking their talents and supporting them for the fact that we didn't have the environment, right environment, to sell their services. And this will sit us down to electricity and water. Personally, I always complain about it nonstop. I know you mentioned that it's way better now than it used to be in 80s. Absolutely right. One thing I cannot wrap my mind around is Gambia is still less than 3 million, right? Way less than a population of a bunch of major cities and even smaller cities in different countries. I know if we have constant electricity supply, affordable electricity supply, how it can promote business growth. That will trickle down on pricing, that a lot of businesses don't have to rely on private generators or even clean energy, which will cost you a lot of money to establish if you are a small business to have. What impact do you think it has in the development of that? And yet, still, we 2020, after 55 years of independence, a Gambia, which is a size of a bunch of other cities, cannot have water, 24-hour water supply. When we have a bunch of rivers that are fresh water, we have a good water table. And I've seen countries that have treated rain water and live on it for the rest of the year. Like every year, they catch rainwater, they treat it, and people use it for 12 months. Like it's been like that for 40, 50 years. A Gambia with that size, it's so heartbreaking that we cannot even have a proper or a 24-hour water supply. Small story buildings, if you're in the first, second floor, you don't even have a good water supply. What impact do you think, especially water and electricity, has in the development of our businesses?
I let me give you my scenario today. I'm not going to talk about other days because it's frustrating to talk about it. Today, from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., there was no electricity here. We were on generator. And about an hour before we started this interview, it went off again, and we're on generator up till now that we are doing this interview. That's how bad it is, because every business provisions a generator. I run radio and television. It's a 24-hour business. So
Correct.
I have to have electricity 24 hours a day. And if I cannot rely on my state, my country, my government to provide 24 hours, guess what? I have to invest in my own power plant. I know
True.
many businesses here who spend a huge amount of money on solar systems, on generators, on backup powers, on inverters, on UPSs, and all what you have not. Windmills, even. I see people now investing into that. These are all investments that could have gone in other things that would have added a lot of value to the economy and to the growth of the country.
Correct.
The failure again goes back to 1965 when we had far less than half a million people as a country.
Hmm.
Far less than half a million in 1965.
Are you kidding me? I
Now,
never knew
well, we had
we
less than
had.
400,000 people in the
Yeah.
country. That's why they called us an improbable nation. That's why they
Oh,
felt that we may not be able to govern ourselves, that we are not uh, populated enough to constitute a country, that
mm,
negotiations were in place that they should have given us to other countries, and we would have become a region in other countries or another city of other countries. These were all discussions that took place in the 60s about our country. Now, coming back to this generation, what you would have expected, even if we don't have nationwide 24-hour electricity and water supply, at least you would have had Banjul and Serakunda perhaps on a 24-hour lockdown of electricity and power and water. And then you gradually work towards the other regions. It's just disheartening that we cannot have that. There cannot be any meaningful development for any country anywhere in the world that is not able to be self-sufficient in the supply of electricity and water. It is not just possible. So our economic retardation itself is also hanging on the scale of adequate electricity and water being supplied in the country. And I don't want to politicize this. It is not about Adama. It is not about Yahya Jammeh. It's about all of our governments that we've had from 1965 to date. None of
Definitely.
them had invested adequately in electricity and water infrastructure that we could today talk about affordable. I mean, you're talking about affordable. The cost doesn't worry a lot of people anymore because what you spend on diesel and other fuels and on generator, you don't mind the high cost of electricity if it's 24 hours because your cost is spiraling out of control.
Right.
So what we are talking about now is reliable, dependable supply. Cost is another factor that we can talk about in the future. But for
Yeah.
now, is to be able to have access to it and have it. Because it doesn't matter how expensive it is, it will be worth it for a lot of businesses and individuals to have it for 24 hours and get rid of the generators, get rid of all the backup systems, and know that I can rely on my state to provide me water and electricity 24 hours. So to answer your question, there cannot be any growth, any meaningful growth or development in the absence of these. There cannot be. Simply cannot.
I've seen a bunch of people who, cancel their trips to Gambia during summer when we should be stimulating to go to Gambia because they have young kids that probably might get sick because of mosquitoes. And mosquitoes is everywhere in the world. But for the fact that sometimes you don't have electricity and you cannot
Mhm.
expose these kids to the environment that is existing, especially during summer. I know we have a lot to cover here, but one important program that you've been airing is just
Mhm.
amazing how you have triggered, you and your company have triggered some of the standards into our politics, into our media, and have brought in high profile Gambians living in Gambia and beyond to discuss about issues. And this is something that is really getting traction, and a lot of people are following it. Every Gambian is thrilled that you elevating the standard at which we should hold our elected officials and the standard that we can look for in our entrepreneurs, bringing people from diverse sectors, from finance, your entrepreneurship in crisis, and a bunch of other ones. One of our followers right here is asking a question. Are you having any plans to um, bring about presidential debate for the upcoming elections? I think this is very, very important for the fact that they've watched you, organizing all these debates and discussions of national and international interest, which is the first of its kind in the history of the Gambia to have people from different sectors or people from different parties to come and discuss about issues. I'm sure that would be something that obviously will go down, in the history books, in which if your name is not mentioned, would not be complete.
I think we have already started. Tell Lamin Jane that we have actually started, Lamin Kere. We have actually started. If you really look at what we are doing now with the national discussions, uh, is to now bring issues to the fore that all Gambians around the country and indeed around the world can relate with. And that already is setting the pace for a 2021 presidential debate. And I feel personally, and I think a lot of people in the media are now also relating with us in this aspect. We must begin to have a platform where our politicians will talk about issues, we'll talk
Thank
about
you.
programs, we'll talk about growth, we'll talk about
Mhm.
development, and we'll talk about they themselves. What have they achieved? Where have they been? What knowledge do they have? What sort of expertise do they have that we should be able to entrust them with the responsibility of running our country? And shy away from all of these Benachin politics, from all of this big
Absolutely.
drum and Sauruba politics, to
Hmm.
now talk about politics of issues, of substance, of value.
Hmm.
How can we, like you and I were discussing now, bring about 24-hour electricity in this country?
Correct.
How can we improve our road network? How can we improve the quality of education of our children? Which,
Hmm.
for some reason, some of us were lucky to have had better education than our children are receiving, despite all the money that we are paying.
Hmm.
How are we positioning this Gambia to be able to be at par with other nations in the sub-region? These are the issues that our politicians must start to talk to us about before they get our votes. And we will have to, as Paradise TV, start and be the trailblazer in this. But we
Hmm.
encourage all the other media houses to also come along with it, to
Right.
also play their part, play their role, to understand that we can interrogate and also get to the bottom of what these politicians are made of, pose challenges to them now, create huddles, and let's see how they react to these challenges, how they react to these huddles. Let us see what sort of plans do they have, what kind of alternative leadership are they providing us. It is not good enough for a politician to come to us and say, Adam Barrow is not working, Adam Barrow is not doing well, Adam Barrow is not this, Adam Barrow is not that. What will you do if you are Adam Barrow today? What would you do differently? What value would you add to our lives? How will every person in Gambia be better off with your presidency than that of Adam Barrow? If we
Absolutely.
cannot find those alternative leaders, why do we change an Adam Barrow? For what? It must be time that we now start to discuss and we now start to interrogate our leaders and put the pressure on them. Let them now come with shadow governments. Let them come with alternatives. And I would like to encourage very much, I don't know who needs to hear this, but why are our politicians not coming with running mates? Why are
Hmm.
our politicians not telling us from now who their ministers would be, what roles
Right.
they would play, what significant positions are going to be given to our women, what significant roles would our young people play in their government, who will constitute their cabinet, and why the caliber of men and women, the timber that they are made of, that will be in our polity. These are the issues, Abubakar, that we want to start to get our people to talk about in an open, fair, and free manner, but also give equal access to every political aspirant to be able to speak their mind at no cost to them. So therefore, I think it goes without saying that presidential debates in 2021 is a must. And if any potential presidential candidate doesn't participate, it will cost you dearly.
Absolutely, man. I can't. I think it's ridiculous. I just think it's ridiculous that we use our resources, time, and on the internet to laugh at our politicians when they are embarrassing us. They all became memes. They all became comedians and all sort. We don't even know because there was no proper process to put them through before they just go there and stand elections. You mentioned Sauruba thing. People go and clap and stuff. No, it is high time for Gambians to look at issues. People will come and get scrutinized. Doesn't mean I hate you or anything. But if you cannot
Mhm.
tell me how you can make my life better from where it is today, why should I vote for you? People are not bringing us their platforms. They're not even telling us how to do these things. If you come and tell
Mhm.
me if you vote for me, electricity is going to be 24 hours, water 24 hours. How are you going to do that? Tell us. So
Mhm.
the Gambians and everyone cannot be prouder of you for putting that stage up. And obviously, like you mentioned, We challenge all the media houses to follow suit. Let politicians not come to our platforms and just blah blahing and just go. Let's ask
Mhm.
them critical questions. Let them face their opponents and tell us why they think their plans are better. You have anything coming on? Or
No,
you
no,
want to
no.
mention something?
No. I'm
Mm.
listening to you, but I'm also trying to see if we're streaming this so I can also share it. So
Correct.
I'm trying to multitask right now.
No problem. So I mean, that's always been a discussion between me and my friends. Like, I really don't care which political party you belong to, but what I care is how you think. Why are you
Mhm.
supporting X, Y, and Z? If you cannot convince me, I just think your political participation is zero because you're not supporting them based on issues. You're just supporting them, probably you know it, or your parents or your grandparents have been a staunch supporter of one political party. If they
Mhm.
cannot solve our problems, let them all go away. And let's focus on folks that are going to debate ideas, that are going to tell us things that are on paper that they can explain very well. It's just common in Africa just to go around and just shout, eat benachin and drinks and all that. Once elections is gone, it's gone. I mean, it just doesn't make much sense to us. Back to
It doesn't at all.
Paradise TV. I know this was gonna be probably the last one. What level Paradise TV is at now? You know, you started operation not long ago, bunch of quality content and all that. What do you think needs to change or improve on at the stage of, obviously we mentioned about electricity and stuff, but how are you seeing Paradise TV in 5, 10 years? Where are you seeing it at?
Huh. Now this is going to be challenging. What you're asking. It's For a start, having had the license in the first place, for me, uh, was an achievement. It seemed far fetched just 10 years ago when I sat with Jammeh in his office at State House, and we discussed it. And he told me and promised me there and then that a lot of people want private television in this country, that he wasn't open to it. But he knew me. He knew me with JRTS and in media, and he knows I'm a career media person, and therefore he would consent to it. And since that was the last time that I officially met him, since then I tried, by all means, I couldn't see him. So having had the license for me was a great achievement of
Mhm.
dream come true of a young person who everybody thought was crazy back
Right.
in the late 90s, talking about television and owning television. To this day, a lot of people wonder how I'm able to even afford it, given the size of
Correct.
country and given how broke I am as a person. How am I able to run this television platform? So it's interesting if you ask me where I see myself in 5 or 10 years from today, as far as Paradise TV is concerned. If you know me enough, you will know my heart is as big as the world. I'm quite
Absolutely.
ambitious. I'm very
Mhm.
driven. I'm very persistent. I don't take no for an answer. And I believe we are on the right side of history.
Mhm.
My success, as far as Paradise TV is concerned, I cannot peg it to finances and how much money we
Mhm.
make out of it.
Correct.
What I will be very proud of in 5 and 10 years is that we have transformed the broadcast landscape in this country,
Mhm.
that we have empowered every Gambian to know what their rights are, that we have empowered every Gambian to know every word in our constitution, to know that we have achieved the level of success that every Gambian is patriotic and is proud to be Gambian, to call
Mhm.
himself, herself Gambian first and foremost before anything else. For me, my job would have been done if a
Mhm.
media house is being created by me that can we can all be proud of as Gambians, that can celebrate our diverse cultures, our religion, our values, that can celebrate us as a people, can talk to us about our history, where we are from, where we are headed, that can empower our young people to believe in a future, to believe in destiny of this country and this state, to know that we can be great at what we do, that Gambia can also be counted in the great nations around the world and not just in Africa. For me, that is success. For me, success is not measured by numbers.
Hmm.
But then if you go to every household in this country that you're seeing people watching foreign channels, it's because sometimes they don't know of our existence. Other
Hmm.
times they don't see the value in what we provide. But other times they're just embarrassed by some of the things that we do on our television stations. With those improvements in place, with better programming, with more young people being supplied adequately by the University of the Gambia and Majak, a lot of young people are now getting media training without having to be attached to a media house. We
Hmm.
believe in the next 5 to 10 years, we should be able to have between 10 to 15 television stations, all providing quality content to Gambians. That Gambians like you anywhere in the world will just need a remote control, and you don't need data, but you can just get a
Hmm.
remote control and tune your television wherever you are, and you can watch everything that is happening in your own country, the Gambia. For me, this is why I want Paradise TV to be, but this is also why I want the entire industry to be,
Hmm.
because that's your pride. That's what sells a country. That's how anybody around the world can also know about us and want to come to visit us or invest in our country. And this is what I think my dreams are for not just myself as Paradise TV, but for every other television station in the country, so that we all together collectively as an industry could get this country on the globe.
I mean, this would have been a perfect closing remark. That's passionate, and obviously, you can just see how everything is just coming from the heart. Knowing you as a person and how you speak to the people, obviously, um, that eloquent professional guy on TV. See you, in the streets, how jovial and down to earth you are. The boys will call it down to earth. How humble I will call it. You
Mhm.
are just to hear that. I mean, that's pretty refreshing. I would just have you one more question on that. I would think this would just be a comment that I would just need from you as my last question. I've seen, observed you for so many years, worked, in different collaborations, visited your office. I have seen the impact you have made in the business sector, in the media. But what I've also seen that is really close to my heart is how you empowered young people that in a Gambian situation would probably never had any opportunity to even succeed in life. Young people that obviously are hopeless without skills. How you empowered bunch of Gambians that went to do great things. Um, the reason why I can call you today and reach you on the phone and get you on this is because of so many reasons. One of that being an inspiration to myself and a bunch of other young Gambians that cross path with you. I've seen how you trained, how you've instilled skills, the passion of media, the passion of thriving for quality and standard in young people. I have seen you, changing all these landscapes, but most importantly, people who grew up under you to a level that you don't even look at how old they are, what they have, what they can afford, but gave them every opportunity possible, encouragements possible to be the best version of themselves. What
Mhm.
advice would you give to a young person who is watching or who is going to watch this video later that will help them to know that establishing a business or getting into something that you love, that you have passion for, doesn't only end at when you succeed or when you fail, but how to grow in that. What advice would you give to our younger generations? I go to Gunjur, see a bunch of folks that are doing so many things to earn a livelihood. But you also see a bunch of folks that are there without having an idea or where to start anything. The idea is all in the mind. Like if I have 100,000, if I have 200,000, this is what I will do. If I have 50,000, I'll buy a taxi. If I have this, so they just sit there and dream and just have the idea all stuck in their brain. What can you tell them to trigger even one person who is sitting hopelessly and thinking that better must come, but they are not doing anything to achieve that?
I think the answer to your question is already in the question. You don't wait. You don't wait for success. Um,
Good.
when I resigned from GRTS, a lot of people, even some from my family, didn't like the idea. They felt I had a good job, which I did in Gambian standards. I had a good job. I was traveling with my head of state. I was covering events. I was doing high-profile interviews. I was reporting from all over the country and the world, in fact. So people felt that was a good job that I shouldn't have
Hmm.
left.
Correct.
I left because I know I deserve better, and I
Correct.
know I can get better. When I left, it will be months that I don't have one single job to do. But I believe that today was going to come.
Hmm.
That belief, that hope kept me alive. Today, I can proudly say I single-handedly established multimedia in the Gambia. And it
Correct.
will be very, nobody can put my hand down because I
I'm a
believed
witness
it
to that.
and I worked hard towards it. And a lot of young people now who have their own businesses had started as my staff or as my mentees to come to where they are today. Now, going back, the person that keeps saying, I'll wait for a better day, I'll wait when it rains to go farm, I will wait if I get a better job, or if I have $1 million, I will do wonders. Those are people the same as everybody who lives right next to a library with all the world's greatest books, but you never go inside the library or open a page of those books. The value
Hmm.
of that library is meaningless to you.
Correct.
We must begin to understand that when you start, it doesn't matter where you are. Start with $5, start with $10, start with 100, start with 500, start with what you have. Have a roadmap, have a plan. The plan you have in your head, implement it by stages. I always tell this to young people who say, Cha, if I have $1 million, you see what I will do with it. I
Correct.
tell them you will fail.
Hmm.
If you don't know how to manage $100, if you don't know how to manage $1,000, you can never manage 1 million. Because when you
Absolutely.
have $1 million, you see a ton of money, and to you, it will never finish. And that's the trick. So
Start
by
eating
starting
into it.
small, you understand the value of building brick by brick, brick by brick. You stumble, you fall, you raise again. You know the challenges, you know the nitty-gritties that are involved in putting that structure together. That understanding itself is valuable education you're going to need to sustain it when you become that millionaire, when you become that successful person. Because the fabric that stitch business together is that willpower, is that desire, is that ability to resist what people see as failure, that ability to not give up, to persevere, to persist, to continue to consistently believing in your original idea that this was just a stumbling block. Success land is just ahead of the stumbling block. Let me get rid of this stumbling block now to arrive at success plan. If not, if you don't know how that can happen and how you can work on that, if you stumble, you give up. You give up, you fail, and you go back to ground zero. I would say anybody with an idea, start, start, and start. That's all you have to do. start. I can name about 20 of my colleagues that I know that started from zero. Today, they are the big names in this country. I
Right.
know one of them who has trekked on foot along every shop along Kairaba Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Os Dambel. You probably know him, DBC.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's one
Yeah,
of
I
those
know him.
people who did not even have a bike when he started. He
Right.
had an ambition, he had a heart. He focused, he knew what his objectives were exactly. He knew where he was driving to.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked so hard. Today he can celebrate his success proudly because he worked on it by himself from start to finish. I can name a bunch of other people. But if he had given up at the time, there will be no DBC today. He would have waited to say, I am waiting to get that 1 million. When
Yeah.
he hung his back around his shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't even have $50 in his pocket. He was driven by
Absolutely.
ambition, by passion, knocking door to door and telling people, I am DBC. I used to laugh at him and say, how can you have a corporation when you don't even have an office? So he was Dumbbell Business Corporation those
Yeah,
days. He's one of the people, my friends, that I'm very proud of because you could see where
absolutely.
he started, you know.
I've seen where
That's
he
so
even started it.
anybody can start.
Mm-hmm.
What
Just
spoils our combo young people, I will tell you now.
right.
A lot of people will hate me for it, but so be it.
Go ahead.
It's attire. Attire.
Mm-hmm.
We talk very big in our vools. We sit in those street corners. We waste 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours of valuable hours of the day doing nothing but talking
Mm-hmm.
about other people and how we can drag other people and their success stories down and being all of this grand in our minds of who we are, how we would have done things differently. But we drink attire all that time and we don't focus on things that will be meaningful to our lives, to what we can do. Again, our combo youth also don't like to do anything but white collar jobs.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a factor. That is, the economy must be driven.
Right.
It must be driven. If you look at Gunjur today, you go to the beach, you look at who owns those boats.
Mm-hmm.
Who are they? Who are the people making the millions in Gunjur? Who are they?
Probably
Are they
outsiders.
indigenes? Are they our young people? Are they half Senegalese? Are they Syrian? Are they Lebu? Are they people from other villages in the provinces that come to settle in Gunjur to make this happen? If you look at it, this for me is the challenge. A lot of us have sold salad in the markets, have sold
Mm-hmm.
nana in other places, but we only did it because our parents were forcing us to do it. After that,
Right.
we feel we're too big to do it as a business. The success that we can make, this economy and the engine of growth of our economy is those small scale jobs, carpenters, mechanics, drivers, fishermen, tailors. These jobs that we don't like to do as young people are in fact the jobs that bring in the money. You know, and I know, when your
Mm-hmm.
vehicle has a breakdown, you take it to the mechanic, you know
Right.
already $10,000 is gone. You know it.
Yep.
And sometimes the man spends an hour or two. How many offices will pay you $10,000 for an hour or two's work? Sometimes your key, your car key, just needs programming. You go to somebody, they put it in a computer, 5 minutes later, you're paying $10,000. And you're wondering, okay,
Definitely.
what did they do?
Yep.
So our young people must understand that the economy needs them, but in all sectors, in all industries. And I will end with this. Mustafa Njai of Tough Africa Global was a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
Today, he is an African icon. I'm not talking about Gambia alone. He had a dream. He pursued his dream. He was teaching woodwork in high school at some point. He was doing carpentry works. He was doing constructions. He was doing contracts with people. Today, it will be very difficult to go to any African country who doesn't know about tough. We have to start. Our young people must understand that begin where you are. Begin with what you have. Focus on who you are today and work on that to build that dream. That dream doesn't fall from the sky. That dream life you want, that big car, that big house, you have to start from wherever you are. Work hard, and your luck will come. Your day will come, and the millions will drop from the sky one day.
I mean, I definitely, thanks so much, Haruna, and for giving us this time, part of your Saturday. You're pretty busy, but created time, and I'm hoping that this will go a long way to change people's life perceptions and all that. Hearing all these stories from folks like you actually resonates, and people understand um, that you're not just Haruna today, you are Haruna that was built all your lifetime, from the generator business and stuff. And somebody can, if I were someone sitting, in the corner, I would have just gone and buy 2 3 generators and start renting them out. This is free business advice. And these are things that will just build you as a person. That's why you are where you are today. It's so easy and cheap just to see Haruna driving a nice vehicle or being on TV and envy him. Like, hey, I wish I'm like him. You don't even know his journey, where what he went through to get to where he is today. So be well, my brother. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Someone just sent a comment. I know you gotta go. It's challenging you for to have a proposed business agricultural venture together. So hopefully you can look into that at some point. Probably the person have a massive land in Gunjur. Who knows? And
Oh, Ahmed Manja.
so
Ahmed,
Ahmed is,
please.
yeah.
I've grown salad all my life and nana. So yes, anytime you are ready, we can do this.
Thanks so much, brother. That's it from us today on GunjurBiz. Haruna, thanks so much for coming, giving us your time. Until we see you next Saturday, you all have a blessed weekend. Thank you.
Dear friends of the Gambia, greetings from your destination of choice, home to the island of Kunta Kinte and known for over 500 exceptional bird species. Be ready for adventures on the River Gambia, where nature caters to you sustainably as it meanders through endless experiences. Our rich, welcoming, and diverse cultures will show you the places closest to our hearts, delight you with our exceptional culinary taste and the local flavors, enchant you with state-of-the-art conference facilities, with luxurious accommodation that caters to your every need, considering your standards in an eco-friendly environment. Stay home today, travel tomorrow. We look forward to welcoming you all to our golden shores once again. From the Gambia.
Hello,
Gunjur Fitness Center Body Max.
See fire for body, and if you follow me, go now, enjoyment go kill 'em. Baby girl, you bad, girl, the way you whine, I demand over you, girl, I demand over you, girl. Say you are my woman, my superwoman, I demand over you, girl, I demand over you, girl. Now see fire for body, and if you follow me, go now, enjoyment go kill 'em.
Moro, mbijan do bakandro ko ngalla janna kibaro moy kalta sola bagaso wafu ka fontelle ko solar enterprise fo fendi nabe dendi solar la fannala la solar la bundal ndella ko do ko ke mole janka solar joran kendol natala dum min nata na ko fanandiya birin Gambia jam fo Gambia e bantala nka bagasol samba be ton ka do ku kendo be ke mo be ni nga do ko ke momo ndi en ka sanji kilin garantie dilale nyin kama ko la do ko lanno si waran ni tema bagasi falle bagaso min bijay fofe nabe dendi sola la bundala la sola la fannala a bagaso sifa be bijay lightning and pumping system ndella fanan ko ke mole min be dendi na ko ni dandal ni kordalla ka jiodi alla ni kalampo fanan sika ka dialla wo pompin wolbe den nin gadinol nin ku kotal ni la jiko ni la fama bela lightning wala dimbani ku kotal danno musola enterprise tin ko la ka fama musola fo fembe den ni sola la hajo la janne be loro wato tenta bul baga solta adum fana be ku fula la leje bunda fula fana be mbulle fal kabonan dami anin dula ba fula safonya America ni Europe na fal kabana wolta dum doron no mote min ka fenken do na te sola la baga sol kana te nyam banko kanya abanta baga sol tan ngata.
For more information, call 7171998.
Hello Gambia. Your television experience is about to be transformed to the next level. Enjoy amazing features with the new DTT decoder by XCAF. Watch television in high definition and excellent sound quality. Watch Gambian channels such as GRTS, QTV, Star TV, Paradise TV and MTA with one decoder, all for free. That's not all. For a monthly subscription of $510, you get 60 international channels from your favorite football leagues, news, African movies, telenovelas, cartoons and much more. Get the decoder for $2,040, which comes with free installation, 24/7 customer and technical support all year round, and 1 month free subscription for only $510 thereafter. Get the decoder at XCAF Gambia, located at Hendon Court Building, former Dream Park, Senegambia, or through approved dealers. For more info, call 446-1060 or 446-1061. The world is at your fingertips with the XCAF DTD decoder.
Falindir balle bina sotola alka television jube nyameng Escaf Gambia ye DTT decoder kutamal lenati jameng alse GRTS QTV Star TV Paradise TV ani MTA be soto min na natalol anin kuma kangol be senearing lew andung ite fenjola DTT decoder akesang dalasi wuli fula ani dalasi tanani dronga andung ibe sola karikilina ye bantala bankol la channel jama jube andung ite kodi wo kodi jola ni la fita ka continue ka min siata ye channel tan woro la jube katake ye subscribe wolom kari wo kari ibe dalasi kemelulu ani dalasi tan donne jola ise football league channelol be jube news African movies telenovela film dima balu musical ani cartoon pour dindingol alta DTT decoder sang Escaf la showroom mimbe Senegambia wotumo Dream Park be dame warang ila agentol minul be banko kan ali kumandi 446-1060 446-1061.
My name is Abubacarr Jammeh. I'm from Gunjur. Started poultry farming in 2016. I then named my poultry after myself and my mother, which we both have B as the starting of our names. So I then named my poultry after Best Choice Poultry Farm. The reason why I start poultry farming is as a result of seeing other young people doing something great for themselves and also for their country, employing other young people and giving them a hope that actually motivated me quite a lot to also do something in my country in terms of food self-sufficiency. Currently I am working with 2 people. Those are employed on the poultry side and they work constantly. So whether I'm here or not, the poultry is running. Initially, I had a lot of passion to further my education and have my degrees in the areas that I studied, which is business. With this, when I started with the first batch in 2016, that was 33 small chicks of broilers. Then that 33, I started with them in my personal bedroom. I raised them in my bedroom and I slept in the parlor, and I still have memorable pictures of all those things. And after that, I sold the entire batch of the 33, so I got like almost some couple of thousand. And by then, I had a half scholarship to one of the Asian countries in Indonesia to study business and administration. The dream was halfway through. I got the visa and to travel. I couldn't have a ticket. I struggled quite a lot. I couldn't have it. So I said, well, that might not be my destiny. So I have to drop that and then continue with the poultry farming. So I then tried to raise some capital and get some more chickens and then brought them up, sell them, multiply. This thing get growing, Really, I'm enjoying what I do. So now poultry farming becomes part of my life. Then the second phase of my story was the time I started building a house for them. I then started making some mud blocks. I couldn't even pay people. I have to mobilize a resource from my own house, and I get help there. And then we then built a small mud house which is 4 by 4 meters. The first house is still there. I use it as my museum or historic house. So now I have a couple of guinea fowls in there. Just renovate the house a little bit and put a run there for the guinea fowls to actually walk in when they leave the house. My first market is my family. Then the secondary one is the neighborhood. They also buy. I'm not doing much saving. I'm doing a very little saving as I'm doing profit plowback. When I have little profit, then I reinvest it into the business. I could do more. I believe I could do a lot because the knowledge is there, the know-how is there, and the willingness is there. But then the capacity in terms of financial aspect of it is the problem. But then I wanted to start everything, and whatever comes would actually follow. So if you want to consume fresh, if you want to eat healthy foods, you have to consume or buy locally.
Planning to have an uninterrupted electricity and water supply from solar energy in the Gambia and beyond? Worry no more, because Solar Enterprise will provide you with the solutions at reasonable cost. We have experienced personnel who can install and advise you about your electricity and water supply with a warranty period. We have good quality solar products from North America and Europe.
We provide services and sell products to individuals, organizations, institutions, private offices, communities, and government. These products are solar panels, batteries, charge controllers, inverters, water pump, water heaters, freezers, submersible pumps, and general solar accessories. Visit our stores at 48 Kairaba Avenue and Brusubi Highway, or you can call us on 7657 479 980 8483 340 9400 or 635 9906.